Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be taking you along to a local watch fair in Sydney called Between the Lugs. Now this watch fair is the first of its kind, hosted by a local company called Mad & Associates. And it's located in Carriageworks, Eveleigh in Sydney. But there is a farmer's market every Saturday at Carriageworks, so it was perfect for me to grab a coffee and head on inside. Now, this is the second watch fair that I've been to, with my first one being Watchfest in Sydney. So I was quite excited to see all the brands that would be on display at the fair. The fair brought together more than 30 brands from all sectors of the watch market. There was also a paid raffle entry giveaway for a Squale 1521 COS model. I have to say, I was thoroughly impressed by the setup of this fair. It contained over 30 brands, was very spacious and well presented. It was in a very casual setting, so I didn't feel rushed at all or intimidated, and I could take my time, sit down and really experience the watches. The fair was set up in one of the halls at Carriageworks, and it was comprised of two main sections, one with the collective of brands and the second one with the more high-end pieces. First up is Squale at the Independent Collective booth. Now, for those of you who don't know Squale, it's an independent Italian watch brand founded in 1959 with a very decorated dive watchmaking history. Now this is the look at the Squale Master Collection 120 Atmos in titanium. So I was looking around and I came across the Squale Sub 39 GMT in green, and I've always wanted to see this green color in person, and I must say, in person it was very impressive. And the thing I like about Squale is that each of their case designs are just so unique. Here's a look of it on my wrist, and I think the 39mm size fits me very well. And they also had the Squale 1521 Marina Militare 65th Anniversary Edition. It was the first time I've seen it in person, and I was very impressed by the design, and I especially liked the orange accents on the dive bezel. And here it is on my wrist. The 1521 case is just so unique in the way that it slopes down to hug the wrist. I've tried on many of these and I'm definitely looking for one to add to my collection. Now coming back to the Squale Master, I must say this is bit of a chunky monkey. And I think it's 16mm thick, but surprisingly light because of the titanium construction. It's definitely a nice watch, but I think it's not for me because it's just too thick. And here it is on my wrist. Next to the Squale display was Meistersinger. Now this is a unique German brand that features watches with a single hand for time telling. Next up is Fortis. Fortis is a Swiss-based brand that is famous for its spacefaring watches and pilot watches. I was very excited to see Fortis because there's hardly any retailers of Fortis in Sydney, and it was awesome to see the watches in person. This is the Fortis Novanaut in black, and in hand you could really feel the quality and robustness of the watch. And even though the watch was thick, I think it looked good on my wrist. And I don't know, I've always liked the Omega Speedmaster as the space watch, but looking at these Fortis Novanauts, it's really winning me over. Now, this is the blue version of the Novanaut, and I will say that on the bracelet, it is quite heavy, so if I were to get one, I think I'll just take it on the strap. Now this is the Novanaut Armady 24 edition. It is a limited edition to 100 pieces and made for the Armady 24 simulation mission to Mars. And this one is unique because it's constructed in titanium, which really helped out the weight of the watch and the bracelet. Now this is the F39 Flieger from Fortis, and I didn't really know how these watches would wear on the wrist, but looking at it in person, it was quite a nice size, and I really like the tool-tastic aesthetic of these watches. And here it is on my wrist. I think I pulled off the 39mm size quite well. And here's a look at their Marine Master. It is one of their dive watches with quite a storied history, but I think this kind of design is not for me personally. And finally, here we have a look at the Stratoliner. Now this model is a limited edition white dust supernova, and the story behind this piece is that 13 pieces were created and actually sent into space to have them tested in space conditions. And to be holding one of the 13 original pieces was super cool. And here it is on my wrist. And as you can see, I really like the design of the watch, but I think it's just a bit too big and wide for me. And Starbuy was also present at the fair, and if you don't know Starbuy, they're an Australian-based watch retailer. I have purchased watches from them before, and they always have great deals and are running sales, so if you're interested, I will definitely check them out. And they notified me that they started stocking Zodiac, which is one of my other favorite dive watch brands. Here's the Super Seawolf diver. And here's the Super Seawolf Pro Diver GMT. And Oris was also at the fair, and they came with some really cool looking tabletop displays. And you've got the classic Oris Diver 65. This is a really cool diver with a vintage aesthetic. And here's the blacked out version of the 65 diver. And what caught my eye was the Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot Coulson Limited Edition. It was a really cool watch to see in person with its carbon fiber case and flame red dial. Now this watch is 41mm in size and features Oris's 5-day in-house power reserve movement. And what was interesting is the seatbelt style buckle that comes with the watch. And here it is on my wrist. I think for a 41mm size, it's still quite fitting on my wrist and quite suitable for a pilot watch. Now, this is Ocean to Orbit. It's a Melbourne-based micro brand started by two car designers and launching with an Explorer-style watch. It was quite cool to see this brand because I had seen it in a few YouTube videos before, and the design of this first watch is quite something. So this is the Lugs Explorer style watch. It's a very unique design, and you can tell when handling the watch that a lot of thought was put behind the design. It also comes with NATO straps to match the dial colors, which is something that us watch enthusiasts can really appreciate. And there's three colors of this Lugs model: a black, a blue, and a green dial. And this one's the limited edition blue and white dial, and I think this was quite a cool colorway for a limited edition. And as you can see, at 38mm, the watch fits really nicely on my wrist. Now next up is Bausele, an Australian watch brand made entirely in Switzerland, and they had an awesome collection of their watches on display. I had the pleasure of meeting their founder, Christo, at the fair, and he's such a nice and genuine guy, and he just has a really infectious passion for watches. This is their Sydney Diver model. And on wrist I have the orange color of the Eternal Sunrise collection. I just thought it was such a nicely designed watch with that classic orange dial. Now Bausele is known for their limited edition watches, and this is the limited edition collab with the US Army base. Here we have the Second collab, which is now in my possession. finally, another limited edition. This watch was made for the Bathurst 12-hour race here in New South Wales. And it features a really cool textured fume dial with a racetrack chapter ring. And finally, the new watch that they launched is the Feel Good collection. Next up we have Second Hour, a Melbourne-based microbrand. Now this is the first time I had seen it in person, and there was some really interesting pieces on display, but nothing really tickled my fancy. This is just my personal opinion, but I think something about the design of these watches just made them look a little bit cheap and off the shelf rather than artisanal. Definitely not to say that they're cheap quality, but I don't know, just not for me. Here is the blue dial version with a pretty cool ripple motif dial. And of course we had a showing from U-Boat, an Italian-based watch brand, which had quite a nice display with a cool diving helmet model. And next up we have Galvin Watch Company, a Sydney-based microbrand which I didn't hear of before I attended this fair, and it's founded by Susan, who is actually a trained watchmaker. Now this is the Loimu collection with a very nice guilloche dial at this price point. And you can tell that the watches are very good quality, but for some reason the designs didn't really speak to me. Now, next up we had Watch Connect, a Sydney-based second-hand watch retailer, bringing some serious heat. This is the Christopher Ward C1 Bell Canto Chime Hour watch in titanium. It was really cool to see this piece in person, and I can confirm that it is a very well-made watch. And here it is, looking awesome on my wrist. I definitely like the look of this piece, but I haven't been considering it in my collection just because I don't know how much wear I would get out of it. Now they also brought some really cool vintage Rolex watches like this vintage Rolex GMT Master. And what an absolute beauty of a watch with its faded bezel and real patinaed dial. And here it is on my wrist. I definitely think that vintage Rolex sizing and design just fits me better than modern Rolex. And here we have a 1996 Submariner. And here we have a really cool 1990s Tudor Submariner with the date. This is a seriously cool watch with painted numerals and the triangles for the 6, 9 and 12 markers, and also featuring a boxed acrylic crystal. And here it is looking absolutely awesome on my wrist. I would definitely like to own a vintage sub one day, whether it be Rolex or Tudor. I just really like that vintage Rolex aesthetic. And just as I was about to leave, I spotted this Sinn U50 in the full PVD case and fume blue dial. I never really liked the original design of the Sinn U50 with the grey bead blasted case, but this PVD version stood out to me. And last but not least, we have Speake Marin, a grail watch in its truest sense, something that I'll always stare at but I'll never own. And that brings us to the end of our adventure. I really had a blast at the Between the Lugs fair, and if you're on the fence about attending these fairs, I would definitely recommend going. They're a great place to experience watches in a casual setting and meet some awesome people. If you enjoyed the video, it would be really appreciated if you could subscribe for more similar content and let me know your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.